the night started at that Shabbat dinner. It ended up at the rabbi's house where a guy was offering me coke, and I really regret not doing it. But it was already like 1 a.m. and I was like at the rabbi's house.
You have
I should have done it for the bit.
What an
Yeah, you really should have.
Actually, it might have been ketamine.
Listen,
now that I
next time, think about the fact that you have a hit podcast that you need to entertain.
I
and
know,
just
listeners.
take the drugs.
Have you been to Denver?
Mm-hmm. I'm working on a project there. I'm under very strict NDA, and
Oh.
they have told me that I can't even say publicly what part of Denver it's in, because
I want to
the
know.
following
This is yenta.
This is gossip.
Know.
Both of us are just like,
the following for this.
don't worry,
project
the viewers
is-
will never know.
No one listens to the podcast.
No one listens.
Really, no one.
The followership for this project is so obsessive that people have
Twilight.
posted about
It is Twilight.
just as far as like native culture goes. Like, we had our own sign language too that was sort of like, it helped us a lot in battle kind of situations, because we could communicate with each other without making sounds
That's
and
so
without
interesting.
being found out.
Was that specific to your tribe or more
Just native
widespread?
people in general.
Yenta! Hello, everybody. This is the Yenta podcast. Yenta, where I get everybody's juicy, dark secrets. Today on Yenta, we have the amazing Samantha Bowling.
That's me.
And guest host Antonia Lassar.
Oh my God! Hello, Yenta.
Yes, we start the Yenta with a lot of energy.
I'm
And then we
here for it.
slowly die down.
Okay.
Cannonballing
in.
Yes, let's go. We're
Here we
in.
go.
This is how I get my
Yeah,
shit.
come on, bro.
Yeah,
Let's go.
bros. Yenta with us.
Yeah, brother. Hell yeah. Same energy? Is that?
People freak out whenever I start the podcast. It's like, who is this? I can't help it. That's how I get my energy up. Samantha, I saw Samantha at Fringe by accident. Well, I wouldn't say by accident. A friend of mine took me there. Actually, someone who I was kind of seeing, who I'm no longer really seeing. Are you? How friendly are you with her now that I'm remembering?
She's a
this
friend of
background?
she's a friend of a friend who I think is lovely, but
Yes.
we're not close.
Okay.
We don't hang out one-on-one.
Yeah.
Very diplomatic.
Yeah.
Yes, we're very political.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I see
Politically
her
correct.
at parties, I'm like, oh my God, hi. It's so good to see you here.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah.
That's a great reaction. If someone said that to me, I would feel great. Yeah. Oh my God, hi.
That's me with
Sincerely
you.
happy to see you. Yeah.
So she was like, "Oh, I have a friend of a friend at Fringe, going to Fringe." I was like, "Yeah, like I really admire the one-person dramedy show. Like, I think that is such. I have never done one. It's something that I think I dream of doing, but I think it's the coolest thing." And she was like, "Do you want to go?" And then we saw your show, and it was so fucking good. And there was like a standing ovation at the end, and it wasn't one of those like garbage standing ovations, you know what I mean, where it's like, oh, one person does it,
So
and then
everyone
everyone
else
feels
feels
like they have to do it. It was literally like the whole audience was like, yes, like at the same did you feel that too?
I did.
Yeah, good,
Yeah.
because that's what happened.
I'm so generous.
And yeah, it was just a beautiful show. And then I was like, you have to come on my podcast. And now
Thank
you're
you.
here like months later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because we're busy. There's life. We're
I know,
doing
I know.
things. You were traveling. You were on
It
tour.
was my fault. Yeah.
Which is a very
Yeah.
cool. That's a great
well,
reason.
tell the audience about your show.
My show is a lot. First of all,
In a standing ovation kind of way.
That's right.
thank you.
A lot of standing ovations.
Yeah.
A lot. I'm standing O's. Hair flip. My show's interesting. It's, you say it's something that you've always wanted to do. I never wanted to do a one-woman show. It was always very much, I had a friend who I did stuff with, creative comedy stuff ever since we were in college with, and it was always her dream to do a one-woman show. And we did that. It was really difficult, and we decided the next show we would do together, because it was just a lot of work to do everything yourself, even with a partner that was like, there was so much that you don't know that you learn in the process of doing it. And so we were excited to take what we had learned from her solo show and like apply those like producing lessons to a thing that we were going to do together. it was supposed to be a comedy show about mental health and all the awesome stuff that she just so happened to be learning about, bipolar disorder, which she had recently, she was open about this, so I don't feel like I'm outing her in any way to say that she had recently been diagnosed with. And then in the middle of us starting the creative process on that, she lost her battle with bipolar and she died. And I just felt just real bad about all of it, obviously. But it wasn't just that I like lost a friend. It was also like this thing that we were creating, this thing that like she was looking forward to, that was like keeping her here on some level. It just broke my heart extra that also would like die with her. And I just felt compelled to not let that happen. But it was a weird place to be, because it was like, well, now what the fuck do I do? You know, like, I don't want to rewrite it for one person. That feels gross. I don't want to recast her. That feels even grosser. I almost just want to like do it as it's written now, and like leave space for her to do her part. And then like we feel the weight of her absence. Sort of like, I recently, I heard the phrase, which apparently is a common phrase that I'd never heard before, that jazz is about all the notes they're not playing, which I feel like,
oh my
okay,
God.
like it's a little, like, okay, then silence is jazz, and I would prefer that.
What a jazz bro thing to say. Well, the thing about jazz.
Yeah, it's about the notes are not playing. But within this context, it was also about like, it's, you know, I really want them to feel the presence that's not there. I really want them to feel the jokes that are that we're not telling, and how important she is in the absence of her, and the imagination of like what would it have been with her. And then this is a bit of a tangent.
Beautiful.
But like so she and I had the same size feet.
Ooh.
She was about 4 inches shorter than me, but she had these big hobbit feet. And we would go rock climbing together, and we would switch off shoes, where whoever was belaying would be on the ground in like socks or bare feet, and whoever was on the wall would wear the shoes. And then after she passed, we were clearing out her apartment, and her boyfriend found her rock climbing shoes, and he was like, "Do you want these?" And I was like, "Hell yes." And he put them in a pile that was supposed to go home with me. And the wires got crossed, and they accidentally got donated to the Goodwill. And you know, as I'm noodling what I do with this show, and like, you know, what I do with this like opening number that has this like tap dance aspect to it, I was just like, you know, what do I do? And I went to the art walk, and the art walk is right next to the brewery, which is where we used to go rock climbing. And I just like moseyed into the brewery and remembered those shoes, and I was like, I gotta get those shoes. I just felt like this really like intense, like I have to go right now. I have to drop what I'm doing and like race to the Goodwill. And like, I'm going 55 to 35. Like, it is not that serious, but I just felt this pull, and I went to the Goodwill, and I went to the shoe section, and the very first thing that I saw was a pair of tap shoes in our size. And it just felt like her being like, do it. Do the thing that you think would be funny, that you think I would like, that you think might be too much for an audience, and just like, you know what to do. You know how to do this. We did this for a long time. So just like trust yourself, and trust that I'm going to be with you throughout it. And so I started working on the show again with that perspective, and it turned into what you saw. And it's basically, to answer your fucking question from like 20 minutes ago.
Perfect. We love it.
It's a comedian reflecting on her own mental health in the wake of losing her comedy partner to suicide. It's very meta. It's very much I'm playing myself. I'm very much talking about Brittany and like our real life relationship. But I can only tell my side of the story. So I have to get vulnerable. I have to honor what she went through and how hard it was, and what we went through together and how hard it was. But also with this lens of like, how do I make everything that we went through together precious, because it is. The pain doesn't have to be precious, but what we learned from it is precious, and she was precious and irreplaceable. And like, what if I am too? And like, you know, yeah.
Wow.
She
That-
petered out.
Beautiful.
It's the most beautiful thing anyone said on this podcast so far.
Thank you.
So I haven't
Yeah.
seen the whole thing, but I
Okay.
got to watch the first 30 minutes of the recording.
It's long.
And-
It's 90 minutes. I'm
and-
so sorry.
It's a masterpiece. It's a tour de force. and to paint the picture for listeners, like, you start with this tap number after this incredibly like beautiful emotional song, and then you drop right in to this like classic Broadway duo tap number, except there's only one person there, and you keep sort of gesturing to your tap partner who's doing tricks and no one's there. And it's like the way you say that you wanted to make her absence be so noticeable. It is like from the first moment watching someone do a comedy tap number without the other person.
Beautiful.
I have chills like
Yeah.
just thinking about it. It's a great artistic decision to start the show off that way.
Thank you.
So how was like your Fringe experience? Because it's not just doing theater, you're doing theater in the Hollywood Fringe setting, which is crazy. And do you want to explain to people what the format is like?
Sure.
Of Fringe?
Fringe is by definition utter and complete fucking chaos.
That's a great description.
Yeah,
That's how they
perfect.
pitch it to artists.
From soup to nuts.
Chaos.
Are you ready for your life to descend into chaos?
Yeah. Yeah.
Join Fringe?
It really is. It really
Pay
is
for
its
it,
own
too.
thing. Oh my God, do you? Oh, do you ever? Yeah, I mean, talk about like not knowing what you don't know. It's just sort of like you kind of do everything yourself. At least that was my experience. There are people that do that have teams and partnerships and stuff, but this was never supposed to be a one-woman show. Like,
yeah, we forgot about the name of it.
Oh,
that's a good
it's-
point.
That's important.
it's called This Was Never Supposed to Be a One-Woman Show.
Beautiful.
Edit that in or not.
But,
And
yeah.
so there was something sort of like poetic in a way about like, yeah, I got to figure this out. Like I gotta do the thing that I said I was gonna do.
I'm sorry. Can I ask you to hold your mic a little bit?
sure.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. And maybe a little bit masochistic, but it just felt like that's what the experience is. That's what's being asked of me by, the universe, Brit, whatever. And I knew it was going to be a lot of work, and I started early figuring everything out. Just as far as like producing goes, Brit was always the producer of our group. She was always the one that figured out the spaces and the timing and the logistics of everything. And I showed up on the day and did the creative part with her. And then
You were the talent.
went home. Yeah, I was the talent.
Kind of like Antonia on this
Yeah,
show.
that's pretty much me.
No, even though today you actually were the producer. Yeah,
Amazing. Yeah, she's the Virgo. She's the Virgo Capricorn queen. I'm Leo Libra. Like I'm all about that side of things, and our personalities really did fit those roles. And so I really do feel like for a lot of the process of producing, there are things that I found myself doing that I don't know how to do. So I really do feel like she was kind of like behind me, being like, go left, go right. Why wait to send that email? Just send it now, bitch.
Yeah.
You got this.
Oh my God, I need that person telling me just send the email.
Just send the email.
Just
You
do
got
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Later isn't a better time than now.
I never do it. I never send it.
Yeah. And I don't either, but I found myself just sort of in a different mindset for it. So you started off like and the reason that a lot of people don't have big teams helping them is because there's no money in it. Like no one, you'd be lucky. It's a very successful Fringe run if you even break even with the Hollywood Fringe. A lot of people don't. So it's, you don't have the incentive being able to like pay people or like offer them any kind of money that's not coming out of pocket. So you end up doing a lot of it in like this bootstraps kind of way. You find the venue, you pay the stage manager. I was lucky enough to have a director working with me on the performance and the dramaturgy aspect of the show. My very, very good friend, Kyla Garcia, who was amazing. She kept me safe just as I was, working through this. And that was really great. But yeah, you do all the logistical stuff. And I'm putting that all in a lump thing because I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
I'm traumatized. And then you dive into performing in front of audiences where you pull people in, you like beg people to come to see your show.
Did you bark?
Did I bark?
Yeah, like stand on the street and like hand out flyers. I heard you have to do that in
there's
Edinburgh.
so many
You have to do that in
words
Edinburgh.
for
I
that
couldn't-
act.
Oh, what do you call it?
I've heard shill, flyer.
Okay,
Oh,
flyering.
flyer. Yeah, flyer's probably the nicer way to say it.
Yeah.
This is bark. Bark at them. Get them to
It
come.
feels like that. It
Yeah.
feels like that.
Yeah.
That was the thing. That was the thing that I did not do
Good.
in Hollywood.
Yeah.
That I think if that was part of the process, it would have broken me because I saw it in
Yeah.
Edinburgh and I was like, that is fucking rough.
I had friends that did Edinburgh and they were talking about how miserable that was.
It's rough.
Yeah, and they said that in Edinburgh there's like 2,500 shows.
When I was there, it was 3,700.
Holy shit.
This
Wow.
past year was almost 4,000 shows.
It's insane.
Oh
And
my
how-
God.
That's like more people in Scotland.
Yeah.
Like there's
Right.
you
How
know,
are
there's
there
just as
even
many-
enough people to go to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
shows?
yeah.
Yeah, well, they come from all over the country. People
Right.
fly in from all over the country, and a lot of the Fringe audience is other people doing Fringe.
Right.
So it's sort of like become
Yeah.
like an
the
industry
comedians
thing,
that
in a
come
way.
and go or whatever performers.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the other performers shows.
Yeah.
So what did you see that you liked or not?
In
like?
Edinburgh?
Yeah.
I saw a show called Ice Hole that was really fun. It was these, I think they were French clowns, maybe mimes, maybe, who were like telling a story, this like very epic story of like, you know, going all around the world to try to find a mermaid. It was very funny. All of their props and costume pieces and everything were cardboard, and it was really cool to see all the different, just the chaos Christmas morning episode of that.
I
really
love an
interesting.
artistic decision that's also on a budget.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, imagine this.
Yeah.
Cardboard.
Yeah.
Imagine this. Supplies we can get for free.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope they got
Like
it for
that's
free.
most
It was
Fringe
a lot.
shows.
Of
Yes.
Every Fringe show is on a budget.
Yeah.
Except maybe like Meg Stalter's show. Did you see her?
I didn't see
I
that.
heard,
No.
yeah, I heard like it got really mixed reviews.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, I saw the reviews.
I'm sure it was
wonderful.
wonderful, and who knows what happened with
Yeah.
audiences there.
Yeah.
But I
the
love
audience
a
experience.
Fringe drama like that.
Yeah.
People being like, "Ooh, a controversial show. Did you see it? I loved it. I hated it."
Yeah.
That's kind of what you want, right? Like better that
Yes.
people are saying I hated it and I loved it versus not saying
Not
anything
talking
about
about it.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, all press is good press.
Absolutely.
I just came up with that.
I would go
Only one ever said it.
I would go skeptically watch shows all the time when I was doing Fringes.
Yeah.
All the time. Because I would read a description that sounded so awful. I would be like, yeah. I've got to see this.
Blot it out.
The
Yeah.
worst
Wow.
one.
Actually, you want to know something crazy?
Yeah.
The way I met my husband is because he was in the audience of my show at a Fringe in New York, and he chose to see my show because I was fresh out of college and my marketing was awful. And he read my blurb and he was like, "Oh, this is going to be shit."
And then you married him.
And then he fell in love with me. Oh.
yeah. That's what was the blurb?
It was like,
Look at your face.
it was
Maybe you'll meet your partner that way.
camera close up. It was this show that ended up like going on to do really well. I like toured it for years and had like an equity run with it. So it was a pretty good show. But the blurb was not pretty good at the time. It was something like, a bagels and schmear mom discovers that her daughter's not a practicing Jew. Oi, Gewalt.
Wow. I mean, that sounds
Amazing.
great, honestly. Who would not want to see that?
I
The
know.
voice is very clear.
Yeah.
The tone, the voice of it is very clear. And they
Strong
say that's
POV.
important with writing.
Yeah.
You want to know something? I'm pretty sure I spelled schmear. SCHMEAAAA
Nice.
YAH. Schmear.
Worth
that's
the character
the right
that
spelling.
takes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So Fringe, folks, that can be your experience at Fringe too. You can bring a shitty show and find your future spouse. They promised that to you at the Hollywood Fringe, right?
That is in the tagline. Fringe is like maybe husband.
maybe
husband,
maybe spouse. Yeah.
I want to talk about like, and we can talk. Well, whatever. You don't have to talk about it. Blah, blah, blah. But like how doing the show, if it didn't help with your depression and your anxiety and like you processing what happened. And a low key, super chill.
Deep dive question. How much time do we have?
Yeah. God. When I say that my director kept me safe,
Yeah.
I cannot stress enough how valuable she was in just like, how's your heart today, friend? And like on the hard days being like, fuck it. We're the ones that created the schedule. We're not rehearsing today. We're getting some sunshine. We're going to the beach. I will say I really practiced what I preached while I was creating the show in like being gentle with myself, watching my thoughts, being kind, bleeding everything that I was feeling and thinking out onto a page, documenting that instead of just like keeping inside and ruminating on it. But once we got into the performance aspect of the show, the show took on a whole different life itself, but also the experience of really having to, in my own face, grapple with the fact that like Britt's not here. When I will say about a year before Fringe, we did a workshop in my backyard with like just like 20 of my like, you know, most trusted collaborators. The first time any audience had seen it, the first time I had the experience of sharing what I'd been working on for so long, what was so close to me. There is a point in the show, spoiler alert, where like at the very end I turn to Britt and I address her directly, and for the workshop it felt like she was there. And like the whole point up until that, it felt like I would look out and see like my closest friends and it felt like strangers, and I felt so exposed and I felt so like fragile. And then for the part that I turned to Britt, it was like everybody else melted away, and it was like she was there, and I was like I was talking to her.
Wow.
And but then when I was doing it for Fringe, it was the opposite, where it was like it felt like it felt, I wonder a lot of times if that workshop was like it was hers, it was like her performance, it was sort of like this thing that sort of like released her from it in a way, and then the rest of the run was mine. I had a lot of fun performing it. It was also a lot of work. It was a lot of exhaustion. I was really tired a lot, but the audiences really did like fuel me, and like just feeling those connections and being able to look at people and tell them the story individually, you know, as if I'm in the room with them, was like really cathartic in a way. And I also realized on another level that like the whole time I was working on the show, I thought I was processing my friend's death. I thought I was processing the story. And I think in a way I was kind of intellectualizing it. And not actually feeling it, because it was hard, but not really going through like the grief stages. It'd be like I would feel something and be like, oh, that's this part of it. Okay, I understand what's happening now, but not really like experiencing it. Whereas doing the show for an audience, I felt it. It sort of like cracked an egg open, where it's just like I would find myself saying these lines and being like, oh, fuck, that's right. And experiencing that in real time with an audience is a whole different level of like vulnerability. But I was also so blessed to have incredible audiences,
and they
over
loved
and over
it.
again, who fucking cared for me, like, and I could feel their energy of
But
just,
it was
like,
the
holding me in
audience,
that
but it was
space.
also the way you were delivering it.
You
And,
think?
like, yeah, of course. Yeah, it was the way that like you came to it and you let yourself feel it, and then we were feeling it as well. And I think, I don't know, I think that's like the most magical thing you can do as a performer.
Thank you.
And
Yeah, we really had some magical moments in those rooms.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to the audiences. There was one like scheduling thing that I was really anxious about for the whole run of the show, of like I had to do a show on a Friday night and then turn around and do it again Saturday morning, like first thing for me. And I was so anxious about it the whole time, but I was just like, I'm just going to give each one everything I got and just see what happens. I was very much taking like a fuck around and find out approach to this whole thing. And I found that like when I say the audience fueled me, when I got done with that second performance, I felt like I could have run a marathon. Like it was very much the opposite of what I was expecting, of just sort of being energized by the whole thing. And I think it was my best performance. No, it was my second best performance. My best performance was the second to last one, where there was a Spanish talk radio coming through the loudspeakers of the theater.
Yes.
And like I tried to address it with my stage manager, and she basically was just like, she shrugged at me and she's like, I don't know.
Was
I'm
that
not
the
doing
one I was at?
Were you at that one? Did
I
you
was.
remember
I
it?
think yes.
'Cause I
'cause
addressed it. I was like,
remember-
do you hear that? Can we stop?
Yes.
Whatever that is. And she just stared at me.
I was like to the person I was there. I was like, "Is this part of the show?"
It's not.
Like,
It was not.
It was just like
It's the magic of
like,
theater, baby.
Yeah, it was like a small, like it almost like an old timey radio, just like playing really, really lightly.
Brit was like,
But everybody-
I'm
Go ahead.
coming back as Spanish talk radio.
Literally in the background of just very lightly over the loudspeaker the whole time was like, hi, just the whole time.
And that
The
was your
whole
best
time.
performance.
Because I had to be so focused. I had to just be so in my body and just like, I know this is happening, guys. I know this. Look at me. Look at me.
Yeah.
We're here and we're talking and this is fine.
God, you're so good at that. You just
That's
pulled
so-
in the cameras.
We're here.
Like, yes, we are here.
We're here. Yeah, we made it work.
Wow.
But then when it was over, when all the Fringe performances were over, I was like, I have to fuck off for a minute. I gotta go. That was amazing. Grateful for all of it. I gotta fuck off. I gotta be in nature. I gotta be with water. I gotta
Oh,
be with my mom
yes.
and my dog and an impossible view. We went to Yosemite. It was awesome.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. But there's a whole different thing to sort of like, I don't want to say heal from. I don't want to talk about it like it was this, bad thing, but it was just like, just to process all of it. 'Cause it was a lot.
very
I mean, going back to my theater school days, Anne Bogart, you know who she is?
I don't, but I've
Some
heard the name.
schmuck.
Tell me.
Tell us.
Tell me.
Some
Educate the
schmuck
theater.
who runs some big old theater company and has lots of books. And I don't remember a single quote of hers except that she's like, art is violence. Theater is violence. As soon as you do something, you are kind of violently choosing not to do all the other options. And that the act of putting anything out there is a little traumatic or a lot traumatic. Even if it's all comedy and all celebration, it's still a little bit of trauma. And you put something so huge out there. Like, I think it's reasonable to say that, like, when people run a marathon, they need to heal.
Yeah.
You ran a marathon of the spirit, you know, of course you needed to heal.
Yeah, it really felt like that. Thank you.
Marathon of the Spirit.
Yes.
Title of this episode. I love that.
It's good.
Are you tearing up?
Yes.
Oh.
Look, sometimes I tear up.
No, me too. Yeah.
No, but it's
we're-
really beautiful
Yeah.
to hear this. And so you went to Edinburgh to be like, should I do this?
Yeah.
And you were sort of telling us beforehand, you think maybe not. Like,
think maybe
what do you think is your future as a solo show auteur?
Yeah. Well, I've got a couple more in the hole. In the hole.
Which hole?
Which one indeed? That are sort of they're still, I think, impactful, but they're not. I'm not like ripping my trauma out of my body and like, will you love me to the
Right.
audience
Oof.
with it, and I would be excited to do something along those lines for Edinburgh, but what I saw my friends going through and what I saw other artists going through and just like the machine that I witnessed, that is the Edinburgh Fringe, was just like, I have no desire. It's very, very hard. It's just hard. It's objectively really fucking difficult, physically, mentally, emotionally. It's just a lot financially. I mean, people lose on average. It costs between 10 and 15 grand
What?
to produce a show there. Yeah.
That's so much money.
Yeah.
Where does
like,
all that money go?
it goes into housing yourself while you're there, getting yourself there, the fees and stuff that you pay to produce the show, to get the advertisements
The theater.
out, the
You have to
theater
book the-
space.
yeah.
Depending on what plan you do, sometimes they don't charge you for the space. They just like do like a ticket sales split, but then you're responsible for moving enough tickets to make it worth it for them, to make them, to honor the relationship.
Did you see Avital's show?
I did in Hollywood. It was one of my favorites.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, I
we had her on the pod too.
You two are
stress
like
how much I love her.
You're like
I
the
just think she's so
perfect
cool.
two Fringe artists to have on the pod
Yeah.
after each other. Like
Yeah.
these two shows both looking at suicide and mental health and like really funny and really poignant ways. And she also was talking about what you were talking about, this question of like, how do you keep yourself safe and healthy while doing a
Right.
show like this?
How indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a good director
Yeah.
that will check in.
Yeah, and being able to check my own ego too, of just like, I'm writing a show about this, but that doesn't make me an expert at it. Doesn't mean that I've got it all figured out. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still very much, this shit is true for me, and what I've learned in my life up until this point with managing my own depression, I know the signs to look out for that I'm not okay. And I know that it's worth it, that I'm worth it to stop and address that. And so like this show took 5 years before I originally devised it to the point where I was ready to share it.
Wow.
Because I kept having to tap out.
Good for you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That
That's hard.
probably
That's
kept your audience safer too.
That was a big concern
know?
of mine from the jump, because I know that, with the research and stuff, because before Brit passed, like we were doing a lot of research on bipolar and depression and stuff. And there was just so much content about suicidal ideation being kind of contagious. That when you're close to someone that dies that way, the statistics of you also going that way kind of skyrocket in this really weird, twisted way. And so it was like, I have to practice what I preach when it comes to sharing this content, in that like I have a responsibility, if I'm going to tell this story, to do it in a way that does keep my audience safe. And in order to do that, I have to know how to do it for myself. I have to, and there's trauma informed theater break sort of in the show where I feel that the story's getting to be a lot to take, because it's a lot for me to say. So I take a break. We take a collective breath together, or it's like I'll tell a story that's kind of hard to hear, and then break it up with like Gwendolyn, who's this like guardian angel character who's organized chaos, just she's just really fun.
Yeah.
And so like that was a way that I like keep myself and the audience safe, in that like I know that was really hard, and now we're gonna do this fun thing. We're gonna do which Chris is this, where we're just gonna like make fun of all the Hollywood Chris's, because we just
so
talked about like rape and
good.
suicide and stuff. So like, yeah, a lot of the show ended up being a roadmap almost of like, how do you dive into this shit and then come up for air? Yeah.
And how do you do it?
Jokes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comedy.
No, and
About
but also
comedy about the Chris's.
comedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, is that me?
That's so real.
I'm so sorry.
It could be me.
No, it's me.
Oh, cool.
And I'm making it go away.
Oh, my phone is on full volume right now. So I've been getting 0 texts this whole time.
Good thing you're so unpopular.
Yeah, I know.
Nice. Yeah, the way you come up for air is
Comedy.
it's comedy, but it's also like, how do you know when it's time? Like you kind of
Right.
have to split yourself into multiple versions of yourself, where like you're the person experiencing life, and you're also the person taking care of that person that's experiencing life. So like I kind of always have sort of like a supervisor character in the back of my mind that's like checking in with myself and catching my thoughts, observing my thoughts as they come. I saw a meme the other day that was just so fucking brilliant, of like a preschool teacher telling her students that your mind is like a pond, and there's lots of fish in that pond. Think of every fish as a different emotion, and try to be the pond and not the fish.
Ooh.
Wow.
And that once I just as like a person developing in the world, like clocked that concept, it became a lot easier to take care of myself, because it was like I'm witnessing myself spiraling a little bit, and I'm going, this is a spiral. What do we do when we start to spiral? We have this person, and this person on speed dial. We have this self-care practice. We have a bath, we have a walk, we have our dog, we have writing, we have music. You know what I mean? Like anything that will pattern interrupt the neural pathway that my brain has started on. But the self-awareness that takes is a muscle that it took a long time for me to build.
Yeah, I know. I love that. And I think a lot of listeners will find that really useful.
Sick.
And yeah, because I think so many people struggle with this, and including myself. And like, it really just is such a practice of like noticing when thoughts like that come up and being like, okay, like this is a thought that I'm having, but that's not all of me now.
Yeah. And so many people have those, they catch themselves, but then they meet that catch with like a ha, gotcha. You know what I mean? Like the gotcha voice of like, oh, look at you, you're so pathetic. You know what I mean? Like that we meet that with like meanness, because we want to improve, we want to be better, but it's the opposite. It's like what's required in that moment is like gentleness and care, and sort of like massaging the goodness out instead of like punishing the bad, which I feel like is a very colonized way of like behavior modification, where it's like the indigenous way, the natural way is to sort of like invest in, feed the part that you want to get stronger, instead of exercising the part that's not doing what you want it to do, and treating our brain sort of like a garden, where it's like it's not just about weeding out the parts, the plants that aren't supposed to be there. It's also about like nurturing the ones that you want to grow. It's that, have you guys heard the Cherokee like parable of the wolves?
No,
I
tell
don't
us.
think so.
I'll do my best to try to tell it. The last time that I told this story, I got it confused with a story in Harry Potter.
I'll know if it's a Harry Potter story.
My friend called me out on it, and I was like, "Oh no, you're right. That's from Harry Potter. Wait, what is it?" Like I had to like take
Well,
a minute.
for our listeners, how do you identify as native?
I'm Cherokee. Yeah, I'm
Cherokee,
Cherokee and
you're Cherokee.
Powhatan descent on my dad's side.
Okay.
My lineage is sort of all over the place. I'm Cherokee, Powhatan, and Scottish. But the part of like the cultural part that we always kind of honored was the Cherokee part. I actually didn't know what the rest of my lineage was until the pandemic, when I kind of did like a deep dive into that stuff via, what's the website?
23andMe.
or something?
Yeah,
Ancestry.
okay. One of
Yeah, I
those.
was like, oh wow, we're
CIA.gov.
IMDb. That's a very, very niche joke. What were we talking about?
So wait,
You asked me a question, and I said, "Oh, it was the wolves thing."
The wolf
Yes.
story.
So, a young boy goes fishing with his grandfather, and he asks his grandfather. A lot of parables are stories about storytelling, by the way. Anyway, he asks his grandfather, like, "How will I be a good man?" And the grandfather responds, "Inside every person are two wolves. There's the wolf that loves the light, that sees the good in the world, and fights for it. And there's a wolf that sees the darkness and loves the darkness and cultivates the darkness. And they will always be fighting with one another. They will always be pushing for dominance over the other one." And then the grandson asks, how do I know which one will win? And the grandfather says, the one that wins is the one you feed. Whereas like if you're and it's not just, I mean, you could reduce it, and it would be reductive to say focus on the positive, but there is a nugget of that, of just like if you're constantly looking for problems, you will find them. If you're constantly looking for joy, you will find it. You know, like I'm reminded of a verse in the Bible, which I don't think is in the Torah, because I think it's
New
it's something
Testament?
that Jesus
It's a part
said.
2.
Oh, okay.
Love that.
Where
First New Testament quote on this podcast.
Yeah, is it? Is seek and ye shall find? That's a Jesus quote, isn't it? Or is it in the Torah?
Probably Harry Potter.
Fuck, is it Harry? Am I doing it again? The book of the Chamber of Secrets.
Seek and you shall find.
Seek and ye shall find. Like, knock and the door will be open unto you. And it's sort of taught in the church. Not to shit on the church, but I don't mind shitting on the church.
Yeah.
That it's sort of this idea of like, ask God for what you want and he will give it to you. And I don't think that's right. I think we missed the mark on that. I think it has a lot more to do with like, you will find whatever you're looking for. So look for what you want. Look for good things. Look for things that bring you joy, that create happiness and create peace for you and for your community, and for the world at large. You know, it's that. That's the light wolf.
Oh my
Beautiful.
God.
We solved it.
This is a landmark podcast for Yenta. We have moved past
love
gossip into wisdom.
Okay, and now we're going back to gossip.
Let's get dirty.
Now that we dropped that beautiful nugget of wisdom, ancient Torah, New Testament, Old Testament,
Who knows?
listeners
We'll
write
never
in.
find out.
Listeners write in. Which one is it?
This
No.
too is Torah.
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 We're gonna transition to secrets.
Okay.
Okay. To Yenta.
Yeah.
So the way we do it is that we just each go around and we each say our little secret.
Can I go last?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll go first.
Great.
Okay, so this is actually happened to me on the road, and it's a continuation of last week's story, listeners, if you are paying attention.
You did your homework.
Yes, and basically, I snuck into a Shabbat meal, like a fancy. It was like a once a year gala dinner that they do in Denver.
Okay.
It was a sold out dinner. The tickets were $85.
Help me understand what Shabbat is.
Shabbat is like
Great.
The Sabbath.
Okay.
But it's like
church.
Yeah,
It's a
big dinner.
It's a big deal holiday that happens every
Yeah.
single week from Friday night to Saturday night, 25 hours.
Yeah.
You don't work and it's just good vibes. And the
that.
definition of don't work is very flexible. But
Okay.
since it starts on Friday night, because the Jewish day starts at sundown, it
at
starts with like, I know, look at me.
Yeah.
Hebrew
I
school.
love it.
And,
I'm soaking it up.
It starts with like a big dinner.
Uh-huh.
And then the next day, if you're being really traditional, you might go to synagogue and then have a big lunch. And it's all about spending time with people.
It's really
It's
very
really beautiful.
community, Yeah,
You
very
should come over to
gorgeous.
Shabbos at my house.
Oh, you should.
I'll have you over.
She's
You're
very
going to
much
love it.
obsessed with it. But like for purposes of this story, it's really just a big dinner.
Yeah.
That's it, with a lot of Jews. And it was like organized by this, I don't know.
And it was $85.
It was $85 for
I'm like,
open bar.
What's the numerology of that?
I like your religion. Open bar, I'm in.
Open bar and like buffet dinner. So it was
my money.
like
Incredible.
it was like a fancier one of these. It's not normal.
Okay.
And tickets were sold out, and I was alone in Denver because I was just like on the road, and I was like, I'll try to go and see if I can buy a ticket out the door. But as I was going to buy a ticket out the door, a bunch of other people went in, and they were all distracted. I was like, fuck it, I'm going in. And I
love this.
I snuck behind the fucking the big sign that said "Welcome to Shabbat." It was like me sneaking behind that.
Get a photo with it?
That was last week's story. So recap for you guys. And what I didn't say was I met a girl that night who I was like 1,000% sure was straight. And I love when this happened. Well, this doesn't happen to me that often.
do love when this
but
happens.
she just was like a very straight, very like straight looking, I'll say. Very femme passing, very cute. Like all the boys were trying to talk to her, but she was not interested in those boys. Ugh, I know. At the end of the night,
What a like fan fiction dream.
I fucking
Yeah.
love when that. Yeah. It also rarely happens. I should say. Usually, I'm like crushing on a girl, and like she's just talking to the boys, which is fine.
Yeah.
But
You're like,
this
"I
time
count?"
that didn't happen.
Nice.
And we were just like talking a little bit, and then at the end of the night she was like, oh, I want to come see your show, like here's my number, or, like take my number, whatever. And that was like amazing. Wait, I should also say that the night started at that Shabbat dinner. It ended up at the rabbi's house where a guy was offering me Coke, and I really regret not doing it, but it was already like 1 a.m. and I was like at the rabbi's house.
You have it's a
I should have done it for the bit.
what an
Yeah, you really should have.
Actually, it might have been ketamine.
Listen,
now that I
Next time, think about the fact that you have a hit podcast that you need to entertain.
I
and
know,
just
listeners.
take
God.
the drugs.
It's the new
I know. But anyway, me and the girl she's like, I think she's just more like exploring, you know, like she doesn't.
Good for her.
Yeah. And we went out for drinks in Rhino, which I was told. Have you been to Denver?
I go to Denver a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you know the area.
Ish.
Okay.
I know the part of Denver that I go to a lot.
Which is what? We don't know.
I do know it's a weird thing. I'm working on a project there. I'm under very strict NDA, and they have told me that I can't even say publicly what part of Denver it's in, because
I want to
the
know.
following-
This is Yenta.
This
is, what I need
is
to
gossip.
know.
Both of us are just like,
the following for this
don't worry,
project
the viewers
is-
will never know.
No one listens to the podcast.
No one listens.
Really, no one.
the followership for this project is so obsessive that people have
Twilight.
posted about
It is Twilight.
just the borough of the place that the project is created in, and figured it out. And so they say you can't even say where it is.
They're redoing Game of Thrones.
Just blink
That's
if we're
gotta
right.
be it.
No, okay, we'll drop that.
It's not that, but yeah, but I kind of know Denver.
Okay.
I know a corner of Denver. Fuck.
You know, I'm going to say this the next time someone asks me a question I don't want to answer. Well,
I'm sorry. Oh my
I'm
god.
under such a strict NDA.
You're right. You're right. That was probably so pretentious.
No, it
sorry.
wasn't. I'm taking notes. I'm like, that was successful.
It is frustrating though. It's because it's like I want to tell everybody I'm so excited about it. I feel like I just can't fucking wait, and it's gonna be another like year.
Well, you'll have to come back on the pod.
I will.
Yeah.
And
oh my
talk about
God.
Denver.
Wow.
In
I'll tell you
another
The
everything.
specific neighborhood
Yeah.
of Denver.
I'll tell you everything.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Um,
internet's weird.
The internet.
The internet's
yeah.
fucking weird. Anyway.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
that's
like,
really the
yeah.
whole story.
I'm like, they're so weird. I didn't spend 2 weeks doing a deep dive on color analysis. No, but everyone else is so weird
That's
out
a
there.
good-ass time. Color analysis is a good ass time. Wait, you were
yeah, well, no, that's really the whole. We went to Rhino, which is like a very corporate, like not really a great. Basically, before I got there, this queer person that I'm friends with was like, wherever you go, just don't go to Rhino. And then she was like, we should go to Rhino, and it was fine. It was a cute little date. We got some drinks and then we hung out, and that's it. But I thought that was a fun little secret story.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Did you smooch?
Yeah.
Cute. Did you touch each other in other ways?
I forgot actually the best part of the story, which is that we did smooch, and then I went over to her place, and she kicked me out at 3 a.m.
3 a.m.
So upsetting, but I had to pretend to be super cool about it.
Ugh.
I know. She was like, she's like, I'm anxious when like sleeping around other people. I was like, I can't fight you on that. And I will leave at 3 a.m.
Did you have like a rental car or something?
Yeah,
Or
did
you
she
have to,
pay
no, I
for your
drove there.
Uber?
I drove there.
Oh, God, so you had to drive
I drove back at
3 in the morning.
Yeah, it was a bummer.
That's a bummer. Are you going to talk to her ever again?
Probably not.
God bless.
That's okay.
All right.
She's wonderful, and it was a very fun experience, and it was my on the road experience, and that's
How
it.
glamorous.
Yeah.
To just be fucking beautiful people
on the road
who come to see your shows, your adoring fans.
No. We met her at Shabbat,
But then she came to your
but
show.
then, yeah, you're right. She's yeah.
I want to hear more about this Coke at the rabbi's house.
Yeah.
I have questions.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't do it. But I'll say the rabbi was not the one who offered me the Coke.
Do you think the rabbi knew that Coke was going around?
I would guess no.
What kind of rabbi? Orthodox?
What kind of
Chabad.
Coke?
Ooh.
So Orthodox. Yeah.
Very super Orthodox.
Yeah.
But there is a whole genre of like Hasidic people who get
low-key
high
do drugs.
and,
That's such a good
and
point.
talk Torah.
Yeah, but I think that's more weed.
Yeah, or like shrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just loving Jewish culture more
It's
and
wonderful.
more the more I hear about it.
There oh my god, there's so many niches. Like this is like a real niche of the like
I want to be a mushroom Jew.
yeah, they're like these like
convert.
Hasidic like the Hasidic dudes who like sit around and do shrooms and
talk
talk
about God.
Kabbalah. And,
Yeah. We should find someone like that to have on the pod.
I know. If we went to New
It'll be
York,
Samantha after she
yeah.
Give me a year.
First she's
We should
converting.
Okay, Antonia, you go next because we're timing.
Okay. I don't think this is that juicy, but it's what I've got because you have to come up with a secret every single time we do this podcast.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like so amazed you keep coming up with
I
good
know.
secrets.
I keep having to do crazy things to
so
secrets. Yeah.
and also my definition of secret, I'm like weirdly like fixated on like it has to be a real secret. Like
Yeah.
it has to be something I haven't told people. So here it is. Okay. When there's this thing ASMR. You know what ASMR is?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like exactly. Like for listeners, it's like if you've never experienced it, it's like when you hear a sound or sometimes see something and it just sends little tingles up and down your spine. So I've been experiencing this my whole life. And before I knew that it was ASMR, I thought that it was like bad because I was like, it feels too good. And when I was like in elementary school, like one of the biggest triggers is hearing the sound of construction paper being cut.
Oh.
And when I was like a little kid, just constantly, every time I was around paper being cut, which happens a lot when you're in elementary school.
Yep.
Teachers are always demonstrating how you're going to cut the paper.
Pillar of education.
I would feel so good. Like you get the tingles up and down your spine that I was like I would be like, people are going to know. Like people are going to know I'm enjoying this too much. And I would always like look away to be like if they see me looking with whatever expression on my face, like they're going to know that I'm like enjoying this sound too much.
I love this so much.
And so I was like, I internalized so many normal things as a child as things to be ashamed of. For example, this. And so it just went into my like catalog of things to be ashamed about. And then when I discovered ASMR, I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like everyone does this. It was incredible, honestly, because then I was like, ASMR construction paper being cut.
Find that on the internet.
ASMR art supplies, ASMR art demonstration. And there's so much of it and it's so incredible. But I didn't tell anybody about this for years until I found out it was just ASMR and it was totally normal. In fact, lots of people do it and love it.
Huh.
Isn't that a funny secret to keep?
It is. That it's your like BDSM.
Yeah, it's like your darkest, deepest
Different
secret, but actually everyone is like, yeah, that's
Very
normal.
normal
Everyone
thing.
likes that.
And
Also
like
BDSM.
how
Like,
puritanical.
just like BDSM.
Yeah.
It's not even like sexual pleasure. It's not like my genitals were feeling tingly. It's just sort of down your spine.
Yeah.
But even still, I was like, this is too much pleasure.
Are you
Spoken like a true Jew.
Yes.
I can't have this much pleasure. I have to have a lot of pain.
This feels too good. Something's wrong.
Are you otherwise like sensory sensitive?
Yes.
Okay.
Extremely.
Yeah.
Another thing I didn't realize wasn't normal is when I touch things, especially people, for a long time, I very intensely see colors. Like one brush
Like
isn't
their
going to
aura
do
or
it, but if I hug someone for longer than 10 seconds, I start, I don't know, just like I see a lot of colors. And especially when I have sex, it's like every single time I have sex,
Ooh.
I'm just constantly seeing this like very interesting, I don't know, like visual presentation. And then afterwards I can be like, okay, it was kind of like, I didn't realize this was weird until I asked someone like, so what colors was that for you? Like, and
And they're like, what the fuck
they
are
were
you
like,
talking about?
What? And I was
love
like, it was
that.
like lime green with like very bright orange around the fuzzy sides.
But you might be like picking up on some like spiritual aspect. I mean, sex is so spiritual.
It's so
We don't really
spiritual.
acknowledge that in like mainstream culture, that like there's a spiritual aspect to like having that experience with somebody, and even like for yourself, but like specifically with another person, you're like blending your spirits in a certain way, and like I always pick up on like what catalyzes me to like see something or hear something, or like the context for like just weird feelings that I get, and like you might be tapping into something really special there.
I'm sure it's so related to the like emotional and spiritual experience of like whatever touch is happening.
Yeah.
You know, if this touch has an emotional quality, it shows up in the colors, you know?
That's fucking cool. What's that called? Is it synesthesia?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was.
Smells?
Do you have that?
I guess that I think that technically counts.
Yeah.
Because I'm technically
Touches,
mixing
yeah.
touch and sight.
Do you know who else has that?
Who?
Billie Eilish. The queen.
Me and her.
Fucking love her.
Yeah.
Okay, Samantha. I'm
Okay, what's your
Oh.
secret?
just go into her. Just go. Break into her song.
I will. Later.
Yes.
We're running out of time.
Yeah.
My secret is that I did a boudoir photo shoot yesterday.
Whoa.
Yesterday.
I've always wanted to do, and I did it.
I love that. Wait,
Wow.
explain.
So boudoir photo shoot is sort of like it's kind of like a sexy photo shoot. It's like it's like you go there with the intention to do like sexy stuff, and it can be, you know, sexy is a spectrum. It can be like sort of like more hardcore, it could be like softer, it can be more like silly or like sporty, and like you can kind of like curate the vibe of it. And I did it yesterday.
How did it feel?
It felt really good to do it. It felt really fun. It felt it was empowering in the sense of like that I'm sort of like curating the looks and the vibe of it, you know what I mean? That I'm explaining what I want it to feel like and what I want the experience to sort of be. I'm not thrilled with like the results, but I'm thrilled with the experience of it. I might not get any of the photos. I might not like
Did you
share
see
them
them?
at all. I did, yeah. They sort of showed me the proofs, and I was kind of like, okay,
Huh.
that's fine. Like, this is not.
That's an interesting
I'm really
experience.
trying
Yeah.
to in my life like shift the lens through which I experience sex, and this is sort of like a new-ish thing for me, where it's like I've been starting to like I'm kind of starting to like date again after a long time of not wanting to, not being interested in it, not sort of like being open for business in that way, and being fine with that. I'm sort of starting to like dip my toes into that world a little bit again, and I'm finding that like the way I feel in my body does not align with like the beliefs that I have about it, about my body, about sex, about relationships. Just sort of like there's this sort of like I don't know if it's just in my limbic system, this sort of like going belly up in certain situations that I want to be more grounded in. And so I'm trying to sort of address that in my life and sort of like care more about what my body can do rather than what it looks like, and how something feels rather than what it looks like or how it feels for somebody else. Asserting what I want instead of just taking the options that are like presented to me by somebody else. But a lot of that has to do with like establishing that for myself in the first place, which is not something that I've ever really thought about doing.
Yeah.
It was just sort of like, if left to my own devices, I'm just like I just won't. And trying to get to the bottom of what that is and heal that in a certain way, but not, being all like,
Yeah.
I don't know how else to.
Yeah.
Sorry for everyone that's just listening to this. I did a weird facial expression just now, and that I expect to.
I
communicate anything
I don't
well.
know if I'll cut this out if she doesn't want me to say this, but my sister actually did something similar where she was just like, I want to do like a sexy photo shoot and like feel just not care how the pictures come out, but just like feel sexy in my body and like practice self-love through the photo shoot.
And the act of sharing yourself in that way, intentionally.
Yeah.
And curating what that experience, what the intention of that experience is. Yeah,
Right.
was important for me, and I'm glad I did it. But if I'm shifting the way that I view sex is like, the lens through which all of it is, then it makes sense that I don't care about what the photos look like. I'm just kind of like, yeah, they're fine. Yeah, I look hot, I guess. Whatever. Like, I'm going home and I'm feeling great. You know what I mean? It's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, so it's not like you're saying you don't like them because you don't like them. You're like, I look hot, but I don't care.
Well, seeing the photos kind of ruined the whole thing for me.
Huh.
Like, I kind of wish that I never saw them.
Yeah.
Because there were certain photos that I was like, I don't like that. That's not me. Where it's just, I see myself in my head as like an athlete. And I'm 30 now, and I don't look the way I used to look when I was not as healthy as I am now. Like, I can swim for hours and hours and not get tired, but I don't look like I did when I was younger, and I don't want to care about that.
Oh.
When I really sit with myself, I don't. But like, I'm working through this conditioning that's like in my limbic system. It's in my body. You know what I mean?
I mean,
Like,
it's in literally
have
every
so
sign
many-
that everyone tells you all the fucking time. It's like,
constant.
Yeah.
it's insane. It's
Yeah.
impossible to not have that soak deep through you.
Yeah.
That fear or that judgment or whatever about your.
the lens. It's
We've been
Yeah. lens.
practicing caring about that our entire lives.
Oh.
And it just gets baked into the patterns.
I mean, we've been
truly.
conditioned to be insecure about it by literally every single company
Yeah.
in the world.
Like,
Like
it's negging. Essentially, at the end of the day, they take our validation, so we go to them to get it back.
yeah,
Yeah.
we buy it back.
Yeah.
We buy their products, and that will help us. Yeah,
And it never works.
No.
It's an abusive cycle.
Ugh.
So yeah, I did that to try to like break that, and I'm glad that I did it. I'm proud of myself for doing it. I wish I had just never looked at the photos. I wish that I had like kept that in my mind of just sort of like, yeah, they might be great, and some of them are. They might be really great, but like, I don't give a fuck if they're great. That's not why I did it. Yeah,
Can we see them?
I could show you a couple.
Okay, you don't have to.
We don't have
we
to see
don't. We
them.
don't have to. So
Yeah.
I'm just sure they're so great.
It's okay. We'll imagine them.
But I'm imagining them as just like beautiful, perfect.
yeah, you sexy athlete.
Swimmer, sexy
Swimmer.
athlete body,
Glowing.
I'm dying. What were
The
you?
fantasy is better than the reality, and I will be in that with you.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything? We're gonna wrap up. Sad. So sad. Anything you want to plug? This is gonna come out pretty soon. Actually, this is gonna come out, I believe, this Thursday.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I've run out of episodes.
I think not yet. Yeah.
This
The
is the
stuff
NDA
that I
thing.
have to plug is not ready for plugging.
Okay.
But follow me on
Yes.
social. Follow me on Instagram. I'm
Yes.
the Samantha Bowling. When I do pickup shows, when I do stuff, I try to post it there. That's really all the marketing that I do, and I've got to be better about that. But yeah, it's that.
Beautiful.
It's just
The
social.
Samantha Bowling on all platforms. Antonia, pluggy plug.
Well, the thing is, I have a really tight NDA. And so I've got a bunch of shows coming, and if you are a Jewish institution, college, synagogue, or community center who wants an incredible night of stand-up comedy, get in touch. AntoniaLassar.com, at Antonia
Antonia's on the-
Lassar
Oh, sorry.
on all social media platforms. Yeah.
Antonia's on the synagogue circuit.
Yeah.
It's an amazing circuit.
It's an incredible circuit. Raye is jumping onto the synagogue circuit.
I'm going to have her coattails.
Shortly.
I would love to be on the synagogue circuit. The synagogue circuits,
They fuck.
They fuck.
They fuck. They really
do
fuck.
coke with rabbis.
They do
They
coke.
fuck. They
So if you're in, let's see, if you're in Boston in December, in New York in December, in Chicago in January, in LA in March, there are more I'm forgetting, but they will be on my website.
Go to your website.
Go to my website.
Okay, I'm at Raye on the way, and I have nothing to plug because it's similar. I'm on NDA. We're all on NDAs.
So
All
many
right,
NDAs.
that's been Yenta.